What's up? We're back again. Josh, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about one of my all-time favorite games, Crusader Kings 3.
No,
Um,
I'm just kidding.
what'd you say?
I'm excited to talk about this with you. I have never played it before. No, that's a lie. I have played it one time with you.
Didn't I show you on Xbox or something like
Yeah,
years ago?
a long time ago. Long time ago. So set it up for me and everybody. Sort of what it is. It's the third one. I don't know if you've played the other two.
No, I haven't played the other two.
Okay.
So Crusader Kings 3 is a game made by Paradox Interactive. And what Paradox does is they make a genre of game called like grand strategy games, like these epic grand strategy. And I think most people like who have played any games would be familiar with turn-based strategy and RTS, real-time strategy. To quickly go into those, real-time strategy is Age of Mythology, Age of Empires. You know, you have that town center in the middle, and then you have workers, and the workers collect wood, gold, food, and like maybe something else. And then based on those resources, those workers can build like a temple and whatever. So like you keep building up your little kind of area, and you have like a barracks, you have an archery range, you have like a stable, so you can then from the resources you make an army out of those resources,
Yeah, and
and
then
you fight
upgrade it.
someone
Yeah.
else. Yeah, then you
Mhm.
fight someone else doing the same thing, so whoever can it's a lot of fun, but it's pretty simple. A game lasts, how long would you say one game lasts? 40 minutes maybe?
Yeah, it's not too long. Not too long.
And then you're done, right? And you know, Age of Empires, you could pick like you could pick the Vikings, you could pick the Byzantines, any sort of medieval society you could pick. And then so that's real time strategy. A pretty and like you know that it's got that top down view. Um, you know, you click on the workers, you know, that whole thing. Then you have turn based, which is famously Civilization. You know, you and I have played that recently, and our other brother Nick is a fanatic. He he's also really good at it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's he's way too good. He's so good that I'm like, he's playing. I don't want to play because he'll
Right.
just win. He'll just win every single
Well, he
time.
doesn't. Yeah, he wins, but he's also beaten it on the hardest difficulty, which I don't think many people have done. But turn based is essentially, I mean, yeah, I mean, it explains itself. That top down
Pokemon.
view again. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but like this is more the strategy in your civilization, where you every turn you have something to do and you have choices to make, right? And it keeps on going. Getting back to Crusader Kings is a little bit different in the fact that it is, first of all, it's fucking massive, right? You can pick any ruler from three different time periods, all the way from Iceland to Japan in
Oh
that
shit.
whole area. And each area abides by the religion of that area, um, by like the cultures of that area. So it's this absolutely massive game. And you can start from three different time periods. I think the
Okay.
first one is like 750. Then there's 1066, and then there's 1150, I think. And the game ends in 1452. I think I'm pretty sure. You know, it's hilarious. I have over 800 hours, and I've actually never finished one game.
Wow.
Um, yeah, no, I know.
You said 800 hours.
Yeah. I mean, the game I bought it 5 years ago. So, or, well, I guess 6 years ago now. I bought it I bought it during COVID. So, you know, don't the math isn't that bad, but
No, it's not that bad.
it's whatever. Um, so what's really interesting about it is that you can basically play as these historical figures, and you can kind of run like you can almost play an alternate version of history. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Like, how much do you know? And I think for the sake of this episode, we should be focusing on Great Britain, the United Kingdom. So Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales. We should
Okay.
focus on
Sure.
them because I think that's going to be a really good microcosm for explaining how the game works on a massive scale throughout the rest of the world that you can play in.
Sure. So set it
Um,
up like we choose Great Britain. We choose a ruler
well,
from a
so
time.
that that completely depends upon which time period you pick. So this is a good way of diving into it, right? So if you pick the 750s, right? Or I think it might be the 780s. I don't think it quite it matters in the sense that Vikings have started to invade England at this time period in the seven they start in like the 750s, the famous. Have you ever watched the show Vikings?
No, I have not.
So the first episode of the show is the first Viking raid from Denmark to England, and they raid a monastery called Lindisfarne. And that is the beginning of like the Viking turmoil in England that lasts for 200 years.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so you can start in 780 and you can play as someone called like Ivar the Boneless. And Ivar the Boneless is, the son of a guy called Ragnar Lothbrok. And Ragnar Lothbrok is like the most famous Viking from
So
this
I
time
do know
period.
all of this. I played Valhalla. I played 400 or 500 hours.
Exactly. So you kind of
Yeah,
understand the history behind this. So you can play as Ivar the Boneless in the territory that he ruled at that time. Does
that's
that make
cool.
sense?
Yep.
You can also play as um the king of Wessex, whatever, Athelred, Athelstan, something like that.
Okay.
You can play as him, right? So you can play as all these alternate versions of history and kind of have some fun with it. I think a better way of talking about it will be through the later period, 1066. So you can pick 1066. How much do you know about the Norman conquest of England, if
N-
anything?
Not too much.
Okay. Have you heard of William the Conqueror?
Yes, I have heard of. Yeah, I have heard of William. Yeah.
William the Conqueror conquers England at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. Okay. You can play as William. You could play as Harold Godwinson, who was the King of England at the time, or you can play as Harold Hardrada, the last Viking king to invade England to claim England. Now,
Wow.
William wins the battle, right? And he beats Harold Godwinson and becomes king. But that's only because Harold Godwinson had defeated Harold Hardrada at a different battle. So you can play as Harold Godwinson, and if you beat both these armies, you can play an alternate version of history that didn't happen, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's actually really cool. So,
Yeah.
so you can just rewrite everything from a time period depending
Yes, and
which
then see
player
how
you play.
that
Okay.
butterfly effect continues, right?
So it's endless. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. So I think this is a pretty good way of like jumping into how you actually play. So you can play as either a duke, a king, or an emperor. Now, those aren't the three levels of power. There are like mayors, but you can't play as a mayor. You can rule over a mayor, right? If you're a duke, you're going to have vassals that are mayors, right? And if you're a king, you're going to have vassals that are dukes. And if you're an emperor, you're going to have vassals that are kings. Do you see how that
Gotcha.
works?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Caste system.
yeah, kind of. You play as the ruler. You don't play as the country, because I think that that's a big thing that people might misunderstand. You play as
Gotcha.
the king or the queen. Okay. Um, and you play as that person, so that person is going to have a ton of different character traits. So you can be like trusting, right? And that'll give you bonuses towards your skill tree, right? And your skill tree it's one of five things. You can be skilled in diplomacy, martial, stewardship, intrigue, or learning. And each of them, and it has a number like 1 through whatever, right? So if you're trusting, right, that's -2 to intrigue, because intrigue is like
Ah,
spying on your neighbors or
yes.
or trying to seduce another king's wife. Do
Nice.
you know what I mean? But if you're trusting, you're not going to be as good at that. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yep.
Or
Okay.
if you're wrathful, like if you're angry, You'll have higher prowess, like you'll be better in combat. You know, so it all of the and there's like I think there's like 50 different traits that you can get. You can also be a
Wow.
craven. You can be a coward, and if you're a coward, you get like anxiety going into battle. Like if you're the head of the army and you're the king, you will get stressed. Like there's a meter called stress. And so it's an unbelievably complicated and in-depth sort of game, but once you understand what you're looking at, the game, I mean, dude, I have 800 hours in it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Because then you can go
But the
back and
problem
pick
is,
another leader or another time period and see how it plays
yeah,
out.
yeah,
And then you can
and,
do
and
combat. So is there any objective, really? Was going to be one of my questions. Is there any objective to the game at
no, it's
all?
whatever. How do you want to rule? How do you want to be a king? Like, if you want, you, you can also like create new religions if you want. Like, if you don't like the Catholic
Wow.
Church, you can eventually make your own religion, but you can't just do that on a whim, right?
Yeah.
So, and let me try to explain the different sort of meters, I guess, of it's hard to it's kind of hard to wrap my head around. So I already explained the 5 different skills, right? Diplomacy, martial, stewardship, intrigue, and learning. Then there's different skills, or not skills, like different sort of points that you can get. So obviously there's gold, right? The gold is top right hand side of the screen. Let's say you have 100 gold, and every month you're making, let's say, 10 gold a month, right? That's not bad.
No.
Oh, and how the game works, by the way, I probably should have mentioned this, is that it'll start on January 1st, 1066. And then when you click play, you'll see at the bottom right hand side of the screen, you'll see the date go January 2nd, January 3rd, January 4th, and it'll keep going. And there's 5 different speeds, so you can go slowest to fastest. Fastest is like ridiculous. You can go through a month in about 4 seconds, something like that, if not
Wow.
quicker. Yeah. Right. But if you play on one, it's like a day every 2 seconds. Does that make sense?
So okay. Okay. So you can change the timing of the speeds.
You can change the speed. Exactly. So at the top, what I was saying, your gold, you have 100 gold, let's say, and you're making 10 a month, and that'll just keep going up. And you're making gold on different factors, right? So if you're the king of England, all of your vassals, the dukes of England, are paying you taxes. Okay.
Okay.
But let's say you conquer Scotland, then those dukes are going to be paying you taxes, right? But let's say you're fighting a war and your military is raised. Militaries are expensive. The amount of money you make a month is going to completely tank because the military is
It
expensive.
costs a lot of money. Yeah.
It costs a lot of money. Okay. So you have money, the gold, right? And then you have next to it is something called prestige. So prestige is like how famous you yourself are. Okay.
Okay.
And if you're very prestigious, other kings will respect you more. Your vassals will respect you more. Okay. Um,
Gotcha.
but and why does that matter, right? But let's say you're because you die, your character dies, by the way, because you go through hundreds of years. So you have to make an heir, and then you become your heir when you die.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. And you have to plan it. So if I'm the king of England and let's say I'm 50 and I don't have a son, I have to get on top of that shit. So I get a son, but the son won't become an adult until he's 16. Okay. I mean, and
Okay.
then, this is
What
kind
if
of
you die
tricky, but
before that?
then he will become king, the son, let's say he's 8, but he'll be ruled through a regent. So either your mom or like the head of the church in your area or in your kingdom.
Okay.
And that regent, if the person's a good person, if they're selfless, they will help you get better. But if they're selfish, they will try to hoard all of their power to themselves. But that decision lies on your previous character making the right choice just in case that happens. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So it just keeps going.
It just keeps going. And there are so many different things that you can like be in charge of. Like I said, like that priest, right? If the priest doesn't like you, they are not going to give you money because the priest will slowly give if the priest likes you and believes in you, they'll give you money, right? And they'll also give you some levies too, like some troops to help fight in your wars and everything. Uh, um, but so like if you're very prestigious, so let's say that guy I was saying, right? He's dead. He dies at 60, let's say.
Okay.
Because he's been king for, let's say he's been king for 30 years, he's very prestigious because he's been around for a long time, and other people will like you better. Every single person in the game will have a number beneath them, and that number is how good and how good or how little they like or dislike you. And it goes plus 100 or negative 100. So if they're
All
plus
right.
100, they love you and they support you. But if they're negative 100, they're either potentially going to try to kill you or start a rebellion or something.
Sure. Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what else you got? Any more questions for me?
Not yet. You're doing a good job. I think the because it's so convoluted. Can you? So this is one of my things for this grand strategy, and it's constantly going, right?
Sure.
Can you
Yeah.
pause it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can pause it and analyze and do your next move and stuff.
Oh, 1,000%.
Okay,
And
thank
it's not even the next
goodness.
move. It's just
You
how
know
the
what I mean?
time goes. Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you can slow
Well,
it down or you can speed it up if you're yeah.
so an example is like whenever your character dies, right? That is historically speaking when a king or queen dies, it's a little tricky, right? It's a
Yeah.
little on edge for a while. So what I always do is I pause the game when your character dies, and it brings up this funny like you have died, and it'll have like a little blurb of all of their accomplishments that the king had in that lifetime, and then it'll be like king whoever now takes the throne, and let's say he's like a really smart guy or something.
Yeah.
It'll say he's brilliant and let's hope his intelligence transfers over to ruling the kingdom, blah 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 blah. So you end that, right? You're done with that. So you then have to make a new council because you have a council as a king. You have a council, and the council is one of your vassals that is in charge of one of the 5 skill traits I was talking about. So diplomacy,
Okay.
martial,
Yep.
stewardship, intrigue, and learning. If you're Catholic, the learning is always the priest, and you can't change them because the priest is given to you. It doesn't matter. Dude, I've had some stupid priests before, and it pisses me off because then the amount of technology you're researching is slower because your priest is an idiot.
And you
And you
can't
can't pick
change.
them.
Oh, that
Yeah.
sucks. Okay.
But you can change the other 4. So this is a really good example of how this game works, right? So let's say my 10-year-old, right? Now the 10-year-old is king. The people in your kingdom will see a 10-year-old as a weak ruler,
Of
and not
course.
unfairly, because that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You will then make your diplomatic person, the diplomacy person on your council, you should make them very competent because one of the jobs you can assign your council to do, especially the diplomatic guy, is you can either be like deal with problems abroad or deal with domestic issues. So if you are
Either
this
or, you
new
can't do
10-year-old
both.
king, you can't do both. You have to pick one.
Okay.
But that doesn't, it just means that that person is going to be focused more on that.
Sure.
Like, so if you're, again, let's say you're the king of England and Ireland and Scotland are chilling, they're fine. But you're this 10-year-old and you're worried about the dukes thinking that they can band together and overthrow you. You then pick someone who has a high diplomacy score. Let's say they've got a 20. A 20 is pretty good. They have a high diplomacy score and put them on domestic. Then that person on your council will focus on quelling any sort of issues amongst your vassals.
Game of
Does that make
Thrones.
sense? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It is Game of Thrones. Yeah, exactly. Um, So then you also then have to pick a marshal, and the marshal is the better the score is of the marshal, the bigger your army is. Like the more levies that you can recruit because your marshal is competent. Same with stewardship. If you get someone who's smart and a good steward, the amount of money you make a month is going to go up. But if you have an idiot there, the amount of money is going to go down. So, but
It's
then there's
all
this.
give take.
It's the entire game is a give and take. The entire game is a give and take
So I could
because
see you could just play thousands upon thousands of hours and then
yeah.
just
Because
yeah.
so
Okay.
let's give an example, right? Again, going with the 10-year-old king. 10-year-old king comes forward, and let's say if you have powerful dukes in your kingdom, they will want a job on your council because that's very prestigious for them, right? But let's say the most prestigious guy in the kingdom, the most powerful duke with the most men, is just an idiot. By the way, you can get a character trait. You can be stupid. Like you can literally have something that says that you're stupid.
Okay.
You can also,
Sweet.
yeah. But the problem is when they're stupid, all of those skill points that I was telling you about go down by 3 just because you're stupid.
All of them?
All of them, all 5
Oh,
go down by 3 if you're stupid. I will say I've played 800 hours. I've never played as a stupid person because marry, you can marry a genius if you want, but you would have to search for them. The problem is if they're a peasant and you're a king and you marry a genius peasant, your vassals won't like you because who is this person? Who's this king marrying a peasant? Like,
sure.
what's his problem? Do you see how everything is a give and take?
Yeah, and I think this leads into the next question, and I
Sure.
think you'll really like this one, is I think it's a lot for people wanting to try it. So,
Yeah.
as like an absolute beginner, when
Hmm.
you started, what's the most important like tip or not even a trick that you would give somebody starting their first ever game to
Oh,
try
that's
a
a
grand
really
strategy?
good question. I think the for like just watch tutorials online
Sure.
and just play
Okay.
and know that you're going to fail because that's the key. When I first started playing this game, it took me a solid 3 hours of really sitting down and concentrating to figure out how to do things, right?
So our
I
buddy
mean,
Josh Farr wouldn't get it because he's a fucking idiot.
I've tried to get him to play. And no, he's just he doesn't I don't think Josh quite has the patience for it. He wants to understand it immediately and then he'd play, but I don't quite think he's got the patience right now. I'm really working on it, like slowly trying to get him to play it. My other friend Tim, I explained this game to him, but this game is right up his alley. He loves this shit. It's
Yeah.
all this management, it's all of trying to figure out what to do and how do you want to be the king, where do you want to expand or not expand, do you want to make a new religion, do you want to kill this person,
Yeah.
like there are just so many different things. But if you're a beginner, play, just play and just know that it's going to be hard and know you're not going to know what you're doing, you're going to have no clue, but the more you sit there and play and try to understand, it'll get better. I mean,
Gotcha.
the best advice is
Yeah.
to play with someone who does know how to play. Either like have
Yeah.
them watch you play or play
Yeah.
together and have the person who doesn't know share their screen or something, and you can kind of figure it out that way. Um, but
Okay.
yeah, my advice would be just to play. And if
Just
you're a
to
history
try it.
nerd, it's amazing. If you're a history nerd, it's absolutely incredible.
And that's so funny. Those are my other like two is historical connection and research. So that's funny you said that. So if someone like you're a huge history buff, I'm sure that really
huh?
helps. Are you more inspired or do you find the depiction of sort of this medieval life warfare, whatever tree,
Sure.
do you find it
Oh,
very
it's so
accurate?
good. It's so accurate.
Okay.
It's so accurate. They do. I mean, the one thing I'd say where it isn't very accurate, but it doesn't really matter because it's kind of uncomfortable, is when you can get married. Um, Historically speaking,
Obviously.
marriage
Yeah.
marriages can happen the second a woman gets her period because then biologically speaking, she is allowed to have a child, or she can have a child,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And so when little,
So you can marry someone when they're like 13 or 14?
not in the no, not in the game,
Not in
no,
the game. Okay.
because that's the one place where they're like, do we
Yeah, no,
really
it's
have
too
to
much.
do these like child?
Sure.
You can get engaged at any age. You can be
Gotcha. Okay.
betrothed at any age. So this kind of ties into like I was in a war that I was losing and I needed an ally. I looked and I had like 4 kids. And I looked at my son, my heir, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to like propose a marriage to someone else, but I'm going to sort who I want to marry by how much how many men the daughter's father has. Because
Okay.
because then we're allies.
Yep.
My son is marrying your daughter. We're in an alliance now.
Literally Game
So
of
then
Thrones.
I'm
That's
in
what
a
they did.
yeah, it's exactly what they did. And
Yeah.
I'm in this war and I'm losing this war. And the second he's like, yes, and they almost always say yes. And unless it's like, I mean, it's very rare if you're like a duke, right? And you want your son to marry a princess of the Byzantine Empire. They're not gonna
Yeah, there's a fuck off.
they're gonna say fuck off. They're gonna say, dude, what? You're just like this lowly duke. I am 2 ranks above you. No, I mean it happens sometimes, but it depends on some. It again, if you're prestigious, right? If you're like that ranking I was telling you about, if you have a shit ton of those points and you're a very prestigious person, and let's say you're just a duke, maybe they'll then say yes. So again, it's that give and take. It's all of these different factors, right? Um, but yeah, I then picked the alliance power, and then that person then came to help me in my war, and then I won that war.
That's really cool. That's really
It's
cool. I
it's
like that a lot.
it's re- it's really really cool.
It's still
And
still talking about. Oh, sorry. Were you done? Go ahead. Go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
I am done. Go ahead.
Okay.
Because the problem is I'm trying to explain everything as best I can,
Sure.
but we've maybe talked about 10%. Like
All right. Yeah.
I know that sounds like too much, but another, and this maybe I think you have another question, but let me say this. Um, there are so many things on the screen that you can ignore, right?
That's nice.
You don't have to be doing everything. You're the king. So like one example is when you start a war, right? You can only start wars for territory that you have claims for. Does that make sense? Like if
Okay.
I am the king of England, okay, I don't have any claim on the kingdom of Ireland. What I would have to do is make a claim, but I couldn't make a claim on the kingdom. I at most could make a claim on the duchy. Okay. So, in the way you
Okay.
make claims is you get your priest to like, hey, I want this county. And the priest is going to bullshit his way into being like, oh, yeah, this record here says that this guy, yeah, you have a claim on this. And then you can go to war. But you don't get all of Ireland. You just get that county from the Irish. Right. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah, exactly. But then if I wanted the kingdom of Ireland, I would basically keep having to fabricate claims on the rest of Ireland and then slowly, bit by bit, claim the whole island. But you can become the king of Ireland without taking the entire territory of Ireland. You
Just
just
almost all
need
of it.
you just need 10 of the 16 counties, right? So let's say you get 10 of those counties, whichever way, by whatever means possible. You get those 10 counties, you can then make the Kingdom of Ireland as your title. So then, because you made the Kingdom of Ireland, you have a claim on the rest of Ireland. Okay. So,
Electoral college for the states
um,
ish. You didn't
yeah,
win all
it's
these
something.
states, but you won the majority, so you're the president,
Yeah, it's a little
right?
weirder than that.
Okay.
Um, no, so there's 2 Latin words in the game. There's something called a casus belli, and a casus belli, translated loosely from Latin, basically means a reason to go to war. So you can't go to war with anybody you don't have a casus belli with. And then there's also something called de jure, Dejure. So if I am the king of Ireland, if I have that title, the rest of the territory within traditional Ireland is also de jure mine. It is
Oh,
under,
okay.
I have the claim because I have the title.
And you have the
Okay.
majority.
I have the majority of the island. Therefore, I am perfectly at my liberty to take the rest of the island. Doesn't matter who's ruling it. And then I can then choose to make the person I defeat my vassal. But then here's the thing, probably that guy doesn't like you very much because you just took his land and forced him to answer to you. So what you can do, kick him out, and you can put someone who's loyal to you. There's literally a trait called loyalty. And if they're loyal to you, you give them that territory. You still rule all of Ireland, right?
Uh-huh.
But that person now is a duke in Ireland who answers to you.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
So
it's a lot.
it's just
It's a
endless
lot.
stuff.
It
Okay.
is endless stuff,
And that
Ben.
was just a
It
little
is.
tiny thing that
Yeah, we didn't even talk about why it's called Crusader Kings.
okay,
Eventually,
why is it called Crusader
eventually,
Kings?
eventually, the Pope will ask you to go on a crusade. It'll be like, do you want to like send troops? Do you want to send money, or do you want to stay out? Right. So if you send troops, it's very expensive. If you want to go to, and also the Pope will have a crusade in Jerusalem. The Pope could also have a crusade in Egypt. So the longer you play the game, and based on how the history kind of changes through your influence, right? Um, the Pope will change where the crusade is going to take place. So let's say again, we're sticking with England. I'm the King of England, and they're having a crusade in Jerusalem. Do you know how expensive it is to send all of your troops by ship from England to Jerusalem? And when they're on a
Yeah.
boat, they cost like 4 times extra to send there. So it's like, do you really want to do that, or you can just
Bankrupt your
pay the
nation.
Pope? Yeah, or you can just pay the Pope. Like, hey, dude, here's 1,000 gold. Have fun. I don't want to deal with it.
Or you can just tell
Or
them to
you can,
fuck off.
but if you tell him to fuck off, Ben, he will look way down on you, and you'll actually lose another meter of devotion. So I actually never got this far. You have 2 other meters next to money and prestige. You have one called piety, and you have another called oh god, is it renown? So anyway, but
Okay, yeah.
piety, if you win the crusade, right, with all your boys and all the rest of Europe, you'll get a shit ton of piety. And that piety can be used as like currency with the Pope. Like if you're out of money, the Pope will be like, I'll give you 2,000 gold, but at the cost of the amount of piety you have. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
And you
Well,
also,
uh-huh.
go ahead.
No, why didn't you just kill the Pope?
So, I mean, well, okay, well, then the next Pope will have a crusade against you.
Okay, then you kill that Pope.
Well, but then you're dead. You're deposed. You're gone.
What?
Also, yeah, you're dead.
Ugh.
So the game ends, by the way, when you don't have a player heir. So I actually ran into this issue once. I what I tend to do in my games is I'll have children around the time that I'm between like 35 and 40, right?
That
I'll get
sounds right.
married around that. I'll
Yeah.
get married around that time. And what the benefit of that is, so let's say I have my first child at 40, right? They come of age at 16. I'm then 56. Okay. So I will probably die in my mid 60s, right? But then my heir will be in their mid 20s. So they're old enough, they've kind of proven themselves, right? And I can just die, and then I'll be okay. All right.
Yep.
Where was I going with this? If you don't have an heir, the game ends. You lose. Like it's continuing the dynasty. So I waited till I was like 40, right? And I went into this battle, and my army got fucked up, dude. I lost, and I lost so badly that my character lost an eye, a leg, and his
Oh,
dick. So
nice. Okay.
yeah, he was one-legged, one-eyed, and he was a eunuch. Like that's how bad the battle is. So when you're a eunuch, your fertility goes down 100%. You cannot have children.
Well, yeah,
And
it's
I'm
because
not.
you don't have a penis.
No, I
So
know, but I am not married. I don't have kids. So what am I? How am I supposed to continue the dynasty? Right?
yeah, you're done. Yep.
I'm kind of done. What you can do, and this is really tricky, you can get married, and you can kind of, I don't think I actually even succeeded with this. You pick a wife who is who is lustful, so she's more likely to like cheat on you.
Yeah, I was gonna say have someone else fuck her. Yep.
Yep, and then she gets pregnant, but you can then pass that child on as your heir as long as no
Who
one
the
finds out.
bastard? Yep.
Yeah, and as long as no one finds out, right? So there's all of these.
That's
It,
sick.
it's incredibly deep, this game. I and it's funny, Tim and I have played other games that made by Paradox, and we came to the conclusion that this is the easiest one. And I actually just
Ri-
recently played with
You,
him. Yeah, I
you said
recently
the
played with him.
easiest one?
This is the easiest one. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I played with him the other day, and he was like, "Dude, I don't know why we said this is the easiest one because there's so much shit that I'm keeping track of. Like there are so many different factors you have to understand." Um, but the benefit, and the payoff is once you do understand, the
Then
game's
it's
amazing.
awesome. Yeah. So two
It's
questions. One,
amazing. Yeah, go for
is
it.
there difficulty levels?
No, there's no.
Two,
Yes,
oh,
yes,
there
there is.
is.
Sorry, there is a hardcore mode where you can't. What's it called? Save scumming.
Yeah, yeah, save
It's an
scumming.
Iron Man mode. It's an Iron Man mode, and the Iron Man mode is fun because there's no save. Right when you quit the game, it saves where you are, and then you can play next
Gotcha.
time.
If
But
people don't
also,
know
it'll
what
have. Uh huh.
save scumming is, it's like if you don't like what just happened, you can revert back to a save 10 minutes ago and do something else. So
Yeah.
you get
So
the result you want. It's called save scumming. Who fucking cares? It's your game, but
it's up to you.
yeah,
I mean, if you want to
sure.
play the game in the way where a choice matters, and even if you don't like that choice, I mean, I see both versions of it. You want to get the best result by the end, you save scum all the time. If you really just want to play through and just consequences be damned, then you play like the Iron Man mode. And the Iron Man mode is also slightly more difficult in the sense that unfortunate things, and I'm actually not quite sure if this is true, but like unfortunate things are more likely to happen to you. So
That
you have
sounds
to be
right.
better prepared. So yeah, there's an Iron Man mode, and then there's like Iron Man mode on or off. And that's it really. But you can also make it like historically inaccurate so that you can like it's gender neutral. If you play historically accurate, it's the firstborn son that becomes the king. I've only ever
All
played
right.
as women a handful of times. I've maybe had like 5 or 6 different female characters because it just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, that sounds right.
What was your second question?
Oh, what was your longest session of
Like
playing?
at once,
Yeah,
like sitting
sitting.
at once,
Uh-oh.
or like my longest game.
Both. Let's do both.
Okay, so my longest session was probably with Tim. So Tim came over, and we were upstairs in my room. I have a big desk, so he played on one side, I played on the other, and it was 5 p.m. And we were like, okay, we're gonna start playing, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Tim looks at me and he's like, "Hey, buddy, it's 10 o'clock." I was like, "What? We just
Oof.
got started." He's like, "No, we've been playing for 5 hours," and that's probably my longest session that I can
Yeah,
remember. I've played some
that's
long ones because it just keeps going. It doesn't end.
yeah,
Because
I
then you
know.
have this problem, and it's like, oh, hey, Scotland looks nice as a king of England. Maybe I'll just kind of flirt with that area.
Sure.
You can also marry your son into you can marry the princess of Scotland, and then that son will have a claim on that kingdom. So you can just wait because they're intermarried. You can just wait to take it over, or you can just do it by war. So it just keeps on going. The longest game I've ever played was a game where I started in Sicily, like like right around in Italy at the bottom of the boot. And when you start down there, you can you have these different decisions that you can make, and different factors that happen. And one of them in Italy is unify Italy. The problem with that is you have to go through the Holy Roman Empire and you have to go through the Byzantine Empire. And both of these empires at the time are they're arguably the strongest empires in Europe. They're very, very powerful. They're very, very strong. But I did it. I unified Italy, right? And then after that, the next decision, it says reform the Roman Empire. So, oh, and this is right up my alley, right? So it says in order to do that, you have to like achieve these certain goals. Like you have to control Constantinople, you have to control Rome, you have to control like Marseille in France. And once you control all of these areas, you can then reform the Roman Empire and you won't be Italy anymore. You will be the Caesar of the Roman Empire in
Wow.
like this fictitious historical sort of recreation. Um, and it's fucking awesome. It
Is the
is so
combat pretty
cool.
cool or good?
The combat's fine. The combat is more like little figures on the map walking around.
Ah,
So
okay.
you put like a flag where you want to raise your army, and you raise your army, and the way you win a war is you basically so if you just go for a county, right? It'll have like the war score. It'll be 0%. Like everything will be 0% at the beginning. Let's say you defeat the army, it'll go up depending on the size of the army and the size of the country or the nation. Like if you're fighting against the Byzantine Empire and you beat one of their armies, it maybe goes up 7%. But if you beat the only army from a duchy, it could go up 50% because that's all they got, right? So it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
scales. But the battle is basically just the two armies meet and they bash their swords into each other for a few days, and then it'll have like a meter every day. It'll go in either or direction, up or down, right? Like left or right to see who wins. Um, and then they get defeated. They have to then run away, and it's fine. It's pretty simplistic. It's not that hard. Um,
So
but
yeah, doable. Okay.
once that war score hits 100, you can enforce your demands that you went to war for, right? You're like, okay, hey, I want my county now. Give it to me because I won the war. Okay. So you can lose battles and you can actually even have the enemy take over part of your land. Like they can siege one of your castles. And when they do that, the territory will kind of be like, it'll have like a stripe sort of pattern on it. It'll be like half of their sort of colors over your territory to say, hey, you own this territory, right?
Uh-huh.
But this army, this other nation took that over in this war. So it's pretty easy once you understand everything. But no, the combat's fine. And that's not really the game, though. It's not about the fighting as it
No, yeah, I
is
know it's not. It's just
as
building your
much of
kingdom. That's it.
it's
Building your
building the
empire.
kingdom.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
that's
So
it. So
that
last
is
one
it.
to wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect ending one here. Told you my
Okay.
questions were fucking gas. So as again as a newbie, I think it seems a little frightening to get started.
It's very overwhelming.
What
Sure.
is there a certain region, time period, starting character that you would
Absolutely.
recommend for I want to see both sides really challenging, but like is it rewarding for that or like what do you recommend?
So there's a joke in the Crusader Kings sort of community that Ireland is a tutorial island.
Ah,
Is
yeah,
because
okay.
it's it's pretty far away from everybody. You're close enough to England and Scotland and Wales where once you're left alone for the most part. Because the English don't actually really even fuck with Ireland until like the 16th century, I think.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you're playing in the 700s or the thousands, you're
You
on your own.
got
You're fine.
so
You're
many
fine.
years. Yeah.
You've got so much time. You're kind of good to chill. So you can start in Ireland, and Ireland is a fun place to begin because if you conquer all of Ireland or you take it over, you then become the king of Ireland. And it's a nice little microcosm for the rest of the game. Ireland is the perfect place to start.
Nice.
Um, the hardest place. So the game, you have all these different scenarios that you can play as, like other historical areas. You can play in Spain because there's a massive issue during this time period in Spain. You play as three brothers, or you can play as one of three brothers fighting for control over the territory that their father ruled as one kingdom. So it's like, do you go to war against your brother, or like, what do you do? That's it's awesome. There's all, and every time period has like different scenarios, and there are some that are really really difficult. Trying to think of like the hardest one. Honestly, if you start somewhere like that's really really tiny next to a massive empire,
I bet.
that can be
Yeah.
really difficult because the empire can then just go to war with you and claim your territory, take you over, and guess what? Now you're the vassal of that emperor. And so now you have to abide by the laws of the emperor. And then but then that's kind of fun too, because then you can work at either manipulating the power against him, or you can get into his favor and get more power that way, or eventually you overthrow him, or you go independent. But the problem is, if you're a duchy that has 2,000 troops, right, and then but the Byzantine Empire has 20,000 troops, there's just no way you're going to do it.
Yeah. There's no way. Yep.
One last thing I will say is that when you do play, when I start in 1066 most of the time because they have siege weapons. In like the
Okay.
780s, they don't really
Yeah.
have too many siege weapons. So sieges take like 2 years. So wars last forever. And it takes forever. Siege weapons make it go much quicker. But you're playing in 1066. I was playing as England or William the Conqueror, and I did it historically accurate, whatever. I played for about 200, 250 years. And all of a sudden, I zoom out to the rest of the map, and the Mongols had conquered half of the map, and I'm not kidding. Half of the entire map the
Oh,
Mongols had conquered,
well, that
which
sounds
is
about right.
historically accurate, right? And at this time period, I had all of England, or I had the whole United Kingdom, including Ireland. I had Ireland, Wales, Scotland, England, and I was the Emperor of Britannia. Because once you get all of them, you can make yourself emperor of those islands.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
also was the Emperor of France, and I also had a few territories in Spain, and I had maybe 25,000 troops at my disposal, which is a lot. And I
That
click
yeah,
on the Mongols. The Mongols had 60,000. So, uh, so it's like, but that's again,
that's
talk
right.
about that historical accuracy. You can play the whole game to try to work up to just defeating the Mongols. Like you can play as the Byzantine Empire 150 years before the Mongols show up, but you can play the whole game trying to prepare for that problem.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then you could try to make sure they don't,
Yeah,
take you over.
they don't take you over. Exactly. But there's so much, dude, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played when it comes to its complexity. And I know it sounds super complicated, but like I said, there are things that you can just ignore because it's not telling you to do these things. It's saying, hey, maybe you should look at this, but also you're the king. Fuck it. I don't want to look at that shit. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
but then sometimes it does, right? So if you're an emperor and they're like, oh, this one county is like they don't like you. It's like, okay, I don't give a fuck.
But yeah, like,
Why
who
would I
cares?
care?
Yeah.
Or if you're a micromanager, you could then set your steward or your marshal to be like, hey, let's clean this up, fix the control here. Like, so it's up to you. It's your choice, and that's the beauty
Depends
of
on
the
how
game.
picky you want to be. Yeah.
Exactly. You could also be crazy because you can like you can marry your cousin and stuff, and you
Nice.
can become like inbred. Like
Oh, not nice.
there's a statistic like it's like, oh hey, marry this person, and it'll be like, oh, there's a 1% chance they'll be inbred because they share the same great great grandfather. So it's like, or you could do that. You can do so many things. You can also be a heretic. You can become a witch, but then people won't like you because you're not Catholic anymore. You're a fucking witch.
Yeah. Yeah.
but then people might rebel against you because there's a demon as king. Like it's there's so much to it. And I think the best way to describe is what you said. It's so give and take. It is so give and take. And every decision is your choice, and it's never telling you what to do. It's your choice based on how you want to continue ruling. And I think that's why it's so infinitely playable.
Wow. And cut. No. Wow. Yeah. I
I
mean,
think that's actually I think that's a perfect place to wrap up,
it,
actually.
it is. So if you want to get into it, I guess 1066 Ireland, give it a go.
Well,
It's
yeah. It
you
yeah,
hit.
definitely.
I'd say you hit about 20 to 30% of the game overall.
Yeah, and there's like these like really sort of the small minutia areas that like I didn't even tell you you can have knights in the game. Um and like one knight like every prowess point they have, let's say they have 20 prowess points, that knight counts as 200 levies. Like that's the statistic.
Oh wow.
So but then if you're a marshal, like if your skill points are in marshal and they're really high, you can have 15, 16 knights, right? And let's say all of them have high prowess. It's invaluable. We didn't even talk about like skill points that you can like dump into your skills. Um, there's just so much to it. If you're curious about it, like these grand strategy games, I think the biggest thing is just patience. You just have to have patience and
Look
just
stuff
keep
up.
knowing, yeah, you're gonna mess up. It's fine. Like your first game is not gonna be good. Yeah, it took me like 4 or 5 games before I had a decent one. You know,
Yeah.
so no, it's a fantastic game. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I could not recommend it enough, even if you're remotely interested in this stuff.
In sort of grand strategy. Yeah. Cool. Nice.
All right, Ben. Well, what are we talking about next week?
Next week or even this week, we might do a double special edition for you guys. Is
Princess.
Josh is gonna listen to this and
I
probably
don't think
text us.
he's not going to make it this far. It's
Yeah,
okay.
if he does, he
He's
will.
very impressive. So what are we
But
doing next week?
we will do. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. Lord of the Rings: Shadow of Mordor/War. That'll be a double whammy of, I think, the
Both
best
games.
Lord of the Ring games ever made.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think they are the best in terms of, it's tough because it's different sort of gameplay styles. You have the strategy of Lord of the Rings still. There's even a Lego Lord of the Rings, and then you have
Well, you know what? Hey, let's get
this
into it
sort of
next week.
style. So we'll
Let's
get
get
into it.
into it.
But all right, y'all. Yep, sounds good.
All right, dude. See ya.
See ya.